Alrighty. Mic check, mic check. 1 2 1 2. Mic sounds good. So the stream says I have excellent connection, and yet it's still giving me suggestions for something that might be wrong. Oh. Hello, friends. How are we sounding? The rain has stopped here in Oregon, so that's something. Audio sounds good in the little stream that I'm watching here, but if anybody notices anything, please let me know. We'll give it a few more minutes just to uh, let people filter in. The birds are out and chirping away. Okay. 10:31. Guess I can just start to chat a little bit and then we'll get into the meat of the conversation itself. Um, so hi friends. My name is Matt Goins with the WiscWeb team, and it had been a couple weeks since I had done a Learn with Matt, so I thought let's throw something together. Let's get together. Kind of go through a question that I've been getting a lot since the school year. I shouldn't say a lot, but often enough since the school year ended, and a lot of sites were looking at um, updating content, but not getting rid of older content. And there are some strategies that I employ in that conversation. And really, this goes beyond just that whole idea of archiving content, although that's what sort of prompted this idea and this conversation from me. This also goes to like, how do I make wholesale changes to a page and swap pages? So I kind of want to chat about that a little bit as well. Um, so we'll kind of go into what that process looks like, and I guess just go through like what I would say is that sort of backing up slash archiving process as well. So give me a second here just to make sure I've got all the screens up that I need to have up. I don't need to have that up. Get rid of that. Okay. And it's just me sort of manning this today. So if you have questions, go ahead and throw them in the chat, and I'll try to get to them as I can as we go throughout um, the hour. Who knows if we'll take the whole hour? We might. If you guys have some questions that you want me to sort of bounce around on after the fact, we can do that as well. So, um, this is me and my screen logged into what's called our QA environment. You can kind of see the URL up there. QA is we sort of treat this as our testing environment where, like, when we're doing plugin updates, or when we're doing theme updates, we'll go through a process of putting things into our dev environment, our QA environment, which is what this is, and we'll test things out there. We'll test it out against sites that we know um, use a lot of the features that the UW theme and WiscWeb have available, and then we'll push things to production. I have changed the color scheme of my QA environment so that it does stand out to me a little bit more, because I bounce in between QA and production often whenever I'm testing things out. I am often worried that I'm going to do something I don't mean to do in someone's site in production. And that's just a paranoia of mine in general. Like, I don't want to break someone's site when I'm testing. So that's why the color scheme looks a little bit different. It's just so I know that I'm in the right spot when I'm doing all this testing. So um, again, the impetus of today was a conversation that I had with the site admin for this particular site, which is the engineering physics department's annual report site. And it wasn't unique because I think about a week earlier, someone had emailed in a similar question, which was that they wanted to request a whole new WISC website for an upcoming year's conference information, and then just kind of leave their old WISC website as is for archiving sakes. And from our standpoint, from a service standpoint, we don't really want to do that because we don't want X number of sites that are just kind of sitting out there stagnant now. You want your site to continue on, and if there's content there that is relevant to an audience from the past, you can set your content up in such a way that it is accessible either through navigation structure. You want it to still be in there from a search engine optimization standpoint as well. So we'll kind of go through some of that conversation as well. So first things first, the first thing that you want to think about when you're thinking about this idea of archiving or sort of setting aside older content is what is still relevant, what is still current, and what needs to be moved. And so one of the things that you can do is you can do it two ways. You can kind of go through what you have within your pages list. And so you can see from this standpoint, I duplicated this site from production. So that's why my name is the one that's listed over there. Or you could navigate through it in your regular navigation structure. And you'll see, obviously, this is QA, so I don't have some of the tables and things set up in there that would be there. So the first thing that I would do is I would take a look at the page that I want to back up. So in this case, here's a student highlights from 2019, 2020, or 2020 to 2021, since now you're going to be looking forward to 2021, 2022. We have a plugin within WiscWeb that is called Duplicate Page. And this is something that I think would benefit a lot of you to be aware of, not only from this standpoint in relation to the archiving aspect of it, but also from that standpoint that I talked about at the beginning, which is, boy, I really want to overhaul this whole thing, but I don't want people to see it. You could duplicate a page, build it out, and then I'll come back around to the whole URL aspect of it. So when you want to duplicate something, you just simply click on duplicate that link right there. And what happens is it creates an identical draft of that particular page. Now this says customization draft. It'll say draft within yours. I think this site has some customizations to the theme, so that's why it's showing up a little bit like that. But now that I have this draft page, I can go in and I can retitle this. You can see it is a draft at the moment. It's still in that draft state because of all of this stuff over here: status, draft, save draft, preview, the publish button. You remember, if something's live, it'll say update instead of publish there. But what I can do now is I can change this to be students. I did it this way, but you could also do it, students 2019-2020, or I think I already have one like that. So now I could say 2020-2021, and I could click save draft again. And that'll update now that URL right there. And that's that. And so I can go through and I can say, you know what, okay, is there anything I need to change, need to edit on this? Nah. So now I will publish it. And so now I have this published identical page of the one that I was working on initially. And so if I go back here, you'll see there's students 2020, 2021. Students still exists. So this is the old stuff right here. So now what I could do is I can go in here and I can now update this to be the new stuff. Do all that stuff. Make it the current content because I'm not getting rid of the old content. I'm just simply updating what is to be new, and then we'll talk about that other archive part of it in a second here. So now I can update this page, and now I've updated that content. So there's a long road to this with all of the pages that you might be looking at. And then this one is pretty simple. It was only 15 pages. You might have 30, 50 pages that you might need to do. So this isn't something that's going to be like quick and easy. But if you look, when you're in this pages list, you could honestly you don't even have to go into the pages. You could just click the duplicate this right there, and it will automatically do what I just did. So if I do that for a couple of these, now I've got these drafts. And again, for those of you who might not be familiar with it, if you look up here at the top, here is a quick menu to get to the various status pages, the various statuses of your pages. So if I want to get to the drafts right away, I just click on drafts, click on this one. Publish that one. Same deal here. And so now what you can kind of see is that, I'm creating those old pages. The reason why I would want to keep this all within my site is, one, I don't want to have to bounce between multiple sites, multiple projects up here to manage all of my content. I don't want to do that from a me standpoint. Two, at a certain point, your site is mature, which means it has been crawled by Google, crawled by all the other search engines. It is out there in whatever marketing that you might have done. All of a sudden, you don't want to start pointing people to a new site, because then it becomes a bit more of an annoyance to manage, not only from your standpoint, but those who are your audience. So keeping everything within your site helps out not only from just easier access for your audience, but also just that complete search engine optimization. Your site's already there. People want to search for that stuff. They're going to go to Google, and your site will have already been crawled, and it will have been processed through Google's algorithm. So keep bringing people to what exists already. So now that I have done a little bit of that archiving, there's a couple of things that you could do here to sort of manage where people can access all of this old data. So I'll talk through what my thought process was for the navigation structure within the page. Kristen, a little confused. The page that is duplicated becomes the old archive kept in draft form, and the original page can be updated. So to an extent, yes, Kristen. So what I do is, if let's say this is the ILC members page from 2019, 2020. If I duplicate this, here's the draft of it, here's the original. If I edit the draft, what I'm going to do in the draft is I'm just going to simply retitle it up here with a new name. So that way I can also publish it, and there's no competition for the URL. So if you'll see here, that URL updates automatically. So now I've published it and it exists. It is a live page that can be crawled by Google, um, but I have kept the original. And now the original, which is what this was, can be updated with that new information. And the reason why I would always keep the original is I really don't want to have to go back every year, every 6 months, every however long, and try to remanage my entire menu structure up here. So this is a lot easier for me, um, just from my own vision of like just to keep things easier for the navigation structure. Is there a reason you publish rather than keep and draft? Yes, the reason is I still want that stuff live, because if I go in now and I edit the original ILC members page to be the new information, I still want people to get the old information. So I want to publish that because that'll be the next step of this process, which is how do I actually get them to now those older pages, which is now creating a navigation structure for my archive section. But I would publish it because I still want it to be accessed. I still want it to be accessible to people through my site, either through searching for it or how I'm going to set it up to navigate to it. So now that I have these things set up, there's a few more steps in here that I'm going to go through in a minute here, because now you can kind of see things are going to get a little wild with my whole naming structure. I'll get back around to that in a second, but let's talk a little bit about how I'm going to do this from a menu standpoint. So the main menu will have all of the various things on it that were already there. And again, the reason why I'm keeping the pages as is because I don't want to have to worry about coming back in here and um, managing this part of it right here. If they click on highlights, I want them to get current year highlights. What I can do is I can create a new menu, and let's actually go back real quick because I skipped a step. So there's an archive page that I created. You could create an archive page, or you could create an archive 2020, 2021, which is where I can now generate a menu on there as well. Now, this decision point is more on you and maybe the decision makers on your end. How much do you want to keep? And how much do you want to keep in a navigation structure? I mean, I've seen some sites where that you'll see that they still have stuff available from 1980s. Some sites I've seen that go back to the 1970s. How much stuff do you want to make available? How much management of that archive do you want to do? Do you just want it to just simply go back to the year before? Do you want it to go back to the last 5 years? That's a decision point that you have to make right now, because that will, I mean, you can undo this later, but that will sort of set the stage for how you're going to do these next few steps moving forward. So you could either create an overall archive page and just link off to all these old pages, or you could structure it a little bit more where you might have like a landing page with some additional information on it. So like I might go down here and say, here is all the information from 2020 to 2021. Please look at it in all of its glory. I might give them some action text there. So either an overall archive page where I can create many menus on it, or single archive page for each one where it'll just be one menu, two menu, or one menu per sort of calendar year or academic year, whatever it might be that you want to do there. So step one, save, get all those pages in as duplicated and set up for like the old versions. So, retitling them, making sure that you're getting the new content ready for those existing pages. That's step one, is create your archived pages. Step two is decision as to where do you want that archive to live. Do you want it to live on one overall page where you'll just sort of link out to the old stuff? Or do you want to sort of create like a subsection of your site that is an archive section? So this is the setup of if you want it to be an archive section, because you'd create a page, you'd give some information, and then I'll talk through the menu aspect of it in a second here. The other way is it's just one page where you just every year update it with new menu items to, now the older stuff. So then step three is create that navigation. So now I'm going to go out to my menus, and I'm going to do this way. I'm more than happy to chat with you guys when you want or when you need to do this, and we can talk about strategy then. One size might not fit all here, but there are lots of different ways to get to this point when it comes to how do you want to move people to the various archived areas that you have. So for me, what I recommended was I'm just going to create an archive menu, and I'm going to put it up in the utility links menu. I'm just going to put it up here. And so I'll create this menu. And then, so kind of what I had said earlier was I can create an overall archive, or you might want to put in, like, again, depending upon what you want to do, if you just want it to be the previous year archive that people see, you could just put up that one up there. But I'm just going to put up an overall archive page because I'm going to show you how that menu structure would work in my mind. So I'm going to add that archive page here. And now I've saved it. If I refresh my live page, there's an archive link right up there. So again, I do this from my standpoint because while the archive is something that is quote unquote important, I don't want it to be a focal point of what my current site is. I want my current site to be about what's now. Some sites might be important. And I understand that. And again, that's where we start to talk about strategy. How do we get that information into there? But for me, archive, it's a nice thought, but it's an afterthought. So now when I click on that, here's that archive page that I created. And I've already kind of started this idea. But again, in my mind, I would start to build this out as like one whole page that just links off to all those things that existed. I don't need to create any sort of page structure to it. I don't need to create a welcome page to it. Here's the archive page. Click on something. That's kind of what my thought process is there. So now, once I've created the spot where I want people to land on, then the fourth step is creating what it is that I want them to see when they land in that spot. So now what I'm going to do is, back in my menus, I'm going to create a new menu because I started to build out that whole 2020, 2021 idea. So I'm going to call this 2020, 2021 menu. I'm not going to click on any of the checkboxes because I don't want it to automatically go there. So I'll click Create Menu. And so now what I'll do is, as you can see, I've got these dash 2020, 2021. So I'll click on those, 2020, 2021, 2020, 2021. Do I have any more that I snuck in there? Nope, I just created those. I'll add those to the menu. I might reorder this as I need to. Whatever it might be there. Linda, I sort of did it both ways. I used both the double colon and then also this dash. I showed both just because of the fact that it's really a decision point on your end. How do you want to identify that this is old data? So either the double colons or just a dash. Either works. It was nothing. This is nothing more than a personal choice on my end. Okay, so I have this menu now created. This is going to be my 2020-2021 archive menu. I'll save it. I've created this menu now. So now what I can do is I can pop back out to here. And since I'm already on this page, I'm just going to go up here and edit the page. I try to make everything as simple as possible for myself because of how quickly I want to get things done. Excuse me. So I'm in this one column layout. I had already created this old one here, but now what I want to do is I'm gonna create a new layout, a new one column layout. And so for those of you who haven't tinkered around with this yet, if you click on this gear icon right here, you actually can get access to a headline area. So if you see here, I did 2019, 2020 for this one. So now what I could do is I could do 2020, 2021. And all I'm doing is I'm just sort of like identifying visually, here is that archive, here's 2019, 2020. And now what I can do is I can add a page element. I can go to group of links. I can't remember. Did I? Whoops, didn't mean to do that. Did I call it a menu? I did. I gave it a title. Okay. So you can give it a title. I'll just say 2020-2021 archived information. I'm going to use a predefined menu because I did create that 2020-2021 menu. So there it is. And then I just click, or I don't have to do anything there. I just add it. I update. And now if I refresh this page, there's the 2020-2021 archive. And that's how I would set this up. Got a cough. I need to mute myself. Sorry. Oh, sorry. Okay. All right. So let's talk through those steps again. Just because I know my brain, everything makes complete sense. I know that I don't speaky well sometimes to make it stand out. So back to pages. Step one, what needs to be archived? Duplicate those pages. Oop, that's a bad one. Trash that one. Faculty staff. What needs to be archived? Duplicate it. Edit the draft. Rename it. So faculty/staff 2021-2022 now, for example. And then publish that now archived page. Was the double colon used to easily find as a search in the pages? Not really, because in reality, this might become something that would grow, and so the double colon wouldn't help too much. Honestly, if I was looking for like the archive pages, I would probably because of the way that I'm going to name things, I would just search for like the year. So like if I needed to find all of my 2020 pages, there they go. The colon was the colon was just me naming it differently. There was nothing about the double colon that was anything other than, instead of a dash here, I used a double colon. That was just a preference, a choice there. The only reason I went back to the dash is because the colon actually makes me, the double colon actually makes me worried about whether or not WordPress and AWS security would start to push back at the double colon as like some sort of attack, code attack, with the colon being a special character for certain commands. So I don't know if the security would kick back on that. So don't don't focus too much on the double colon. The double colon was just simply a naming choice on my end. You might not use either. You might just do it like this, no dash in there at all. You might say highlights 2020 2021 with no dash right there. It's a complete choice on your end. The only thing that I would recommend is make sure that you are consistent moving forward and that it is something that is relevant and makes sense to you and anybody else who's going to come after you to edit this site. Okay, so back to the pages. Okay, so again, uh, find the pages that need to be archived, duplicate them. Once you have created that list of duplicated pages, figure out where do you want that archive to live. And really, this is a one-time choice because you're going to put it there and just constantly update it wherever it is. So step 2 is hopefully a once in time choice. Once you have decided where it's going to live, so again, I created this archive page. Then it's just about creating the actual quote unquote archive itself. And that's what these are. These are archives. They're just menus to those pages that I have duplicated and renamed. I wish I had a good whiteboarding thing here because I would draw. I need to get back on campus so I can train you guys in a room. But that's basically what it would be: is duplicate pages, rename pages, figure out where you want this archive to live, and then build that archive based on either a single page setup for all of the archives, which is what I'm doing here, or single section setup where I might have. So let me go back to that one. So like I had this archive 20. My headphones just went off on me. Sorry. That was weird. So like I had this one right here. In all honesty, what I might do is I might add a 2-column layout here and do a 60/40 right here. And on the left side text block, please enjoy our 2020-2021 annual report information. If you have any questions, please contact us at something at step. And then on the right side, I'd still add that group of links menu right there. Again, use predefined menu, find the menu that I want it to be, update it. So doing it this way will require a little more management on your end, because now what happens is if I land on this guy, I need to go in and put that same archive menu on this page somewhere so that I can keep moving them in through there. So that's one thought process with that. The other thing to think about is sorry, sometimes this just turns into Matt's brain is going to explode all over people. The next thing to think about is once you have started to do this a little bit, look at how my pages are kind of getting there. Yep, I'll do that in a second, Linda. The things are starting to get a little bit wonky under here. So now what I could do is if I've decided on how I want to do this. So for example, I might have this I might have this archive page right here. What I would start to do is I would grab all of these 2020, 2021 pages. So again, since I've titled them in such a way, I can just search for them. Now watch this, because this is a nice, fast way to do things in mass. I'm going to click on these checkboxes right next to all of these that are 2021. So I have them all selected. I'm going to go to bulk actions up here at the top and click edit and apply. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to set a parent for all of these. So now if I go to archive, I will set archive as the parent of all of these pages. So now if I click update, and so now you'll see, oh, there they all are. If I go back to all pages, let me zoom in a little bit so this makes a little more sense for everyone. Here's my archive page, that master archive page that I created, and now everything's a child page of it. And I can easily find those by just going to the archive section right there. And so that's how I do a lot of my stuff. I do a lot of, like, if I need to move things to trash in mass or if I need to edit things in mass, I do a lot of this checking because it's just like, otherwise I'd have to go edit each one, parent page, edit parent page, edit parent page. You can do this right on the fly by doing it this way. So why I would do this is because if you look at this archive page right here, here I've landed. If I click on research and facility updates, this is why breadcrumbs are pretty nice when it comes to parent-child relationships. Because now what I can do is, oh, I just need to get back up to the master page right there. One more down, students. Oh, back up. It creates that navigation structure right there on the breadcrumbs for you. And honestly, visually, it tells me that I'm in the archive section. So I don't get misled as to where I am. Again, you kind of have to hit users or site visitors over the head with like obvious information. So again, there's a lot of like I'm just throwing strategies at you guys. Don't worry about understanding it completely out of all this. I just want to throw these ideas out to you. After the fact, you all know that you can get in touch with me and we can certainly chat about this more. And that's kind of where this idea came from. Was I was chatting through this with this site's admin and I was like, this is great information. Let me just throw it out there for everybody. Okay. How do you do the menu on the page? So if I'm going to do it the old way, so if I'm on this archive 2020, 2021 page, view the page. So here I am. And if I go to highlights 2020, 2021, if I want to put this menu on the page, honestly, all I'm going to do is, it's not that I don't care, but honestly, this is old stuff. And I'm really not going to focus so much on aesthetics right now. I don't want to worry so much about how this page looks now. I'm going to make it easy. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add a one column content at the very top. I'm just going to add a group of links up there. I'm going to just say, 2020, 2021 archive menu. Use that predefined menu that I had created. Update that page. And there it is. And I would just do this for each subsequent page. So that way the menu will be there. Same idea as what you would do with just any sort of on-page navigation. But now I'm just going to throw it on all these archive pages. And I'm not going to worry so much about aesthetics. This wouldn't look the best to me if I was building an existing page for like current stuff. But for old stuff, I'm not going to overthink the wheel here. Okay. So that's how I would create an archive. Duplicate pages, rename pages, figure out where they're going to exist, create my navigation to how to get to where they exist, and just keep moving from there. So last thing I wanted to touch on specifically was another question that I do get pretty often, which is, I have this page. Let me go back out to the main page. I have this page. It's my highlights page. I want to redo this page, but I don't want to publish it just yet. Same thought process here, but we're going to do like a little swap at the end of that conversation. So, same idea here is I'm looking at this page. It's my highlights page. If I hover over this up here, look, I have access to that duplicate option there as well. So I'm going to just duplicate this page as a draft. Here's my highlights page. What you'll notice, and a lot of you should notice this in your sites now, if you give something a page title of another value that already exists, it adds a -2 to the page. And -3 and -4, and some of you might get up to -10, 11, whatever it might be. Every time you create a page and give it the same name as something that already exists, it will automatically append a dash number value to it. So now what I can do is I have this draft created, and now what I can do is I can go, you know what? I really want, let's add a one column at the top that is a text block, and this is highlights, and say, here are some outstanding highlights from 2020, 2021. Our students were amazing. Lorem ipsum, la la la. And then I might go, all right, that's pretty cool. Put an image in right next to it. There's a cool image. We'll leave it medium. I was just about to yell into my mic. Please, 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 all of you who are listening to this, please use the alt text field. Any image that you put on a website must have alt text applied to it. Don't be sorry. I'm just pointing it out. It is the easiest thing to miss. The problem is it's a struggle to go back and fix. So I always want to encourage people to just get into the habit of upload image, alt text right away. It is. We just had this conversation. I don't know if any of you had watched any of the Research Professionals Conference over the past, week, but I was presenting yesterday in one, and there were 4 of us on the panel, and all of us said the same thing. Web accessibility is such an important aspect of creating this online presence. But honestly, it is so easy to simply, you're in the flow. You're building, and you completely slide right by it. And I understand it completely. That's why I'm like, I'm never mad that it's not done. I'm always like, I got to get you guys into that habit. When you upload a picture, just add alt text to it right away. Don't even think about anything else other than image, alt text, image, alt text, image, alt text. I want people to be in that habit because it is so easy to slip by. It really is. So it's not specifically pointing you out, Tim. It's more of, I know how easy it is to miss. So just make sure you get into that habit. So let's just say, blue pipe design. We'll just give it that. So there it is. We'll float it left. There it all is. And then I don't want to publish this yet because it doesn't need to be published. So I'll save that draft. Okay, so now I have this new page with the new information on it that's going to replace the old page on it. So now what I can do is I'm going to go back out 2 pages. I'm going to go back down to highlights. And this is, so you have to make sure that you're ready for this. And this might be something where you're like, maybe I want to do this when it's a low activity time for my site. But basically what I'm going to do is this. I'm going to swap this URL. Oops, sorry. Didn't say what I was saying. I'm going to click edit. I'm going to do highlights dash old and say okay. And I'm going to update it. And then I'm going to go back out to pages quick. Hit highlights. Whoops. There's the draft. Hit highlights. And then publish. And notice now, because I have renamed that old one, this one grabs the same URL. And then I'm just going to bounce out real quick. And what you'll notice here is it's still looking at the old. So now I just need to do a quick fix on my main menu. Remove, highlights, add to menu. Don't remember where it was, but I'll just throw it right there. Save menu. Do a quick refresh. And there we go. So I just did that in 2 minutes. It doesn't take long to do that. It's a quick process. But this is one thing that I get that question a lot is I really want to update this stuff, but I want to do it and then publish it. It really is just a quick switch. Any questions on that stuff? And I'll say, like, what I'm showing you all live in WiscWeb, I'm sorry, the UW theme in WordPress, really a lot more than I do because you are updating content on a constant basis. When I'm jumping in there, it's just to fix something or it's to answer questions and things like that. So I'm hoping I'm showing you guys things that aren't going to like overwhelm you too much. These are all sort of tasks that you should be comfortable with, or at least sort of confident in the fact that you are experienced enough to poke around with this. If the URL is the same, why do I need to redo the menu? Because the menu is going to look at the original page that was up there. So if I renamed this as something else, it's always going to look at what that page was that was originally put in that menu. So that's why I need to do that quick swap with the menu there. That's why I test it as well. I want to make sure that I test it to make sure I know exactly what's happening, and then I'll make that quick swap. But that's why. It's because when I did that menu there, it was still looking at highlights old. Dash old, I should say. Sometimes, so that's in that case, that's something that WordPress does. Some of you we've had this conversation with in the past. WordPress has a built-in sort of logic and I don't know if it's algorithm, but it's a programming that's built into it that is sort of meant to be smart, and it tries to do things um, intelligently that sometimes you don't want it to do. This is one of those cases where it is thinking for you when I don't need it to think for me, and so I need to undo that thinking. Any other questions? Anything else I can throw at you guys? Hopefully that all makes sense. Is there a way to archive an entire site? Probably not a good idea, but what if we were really trying to refresh everything? Good question. So, at the end of the day, if you really just want to grab like a copy of your site, let me go back into the dashboard here. Bounce here. If you just really want to say, you know what, we want everything saved but gone, you could export your site and it'll download an XML file, and that is a copy of the site. But that doesn't really, once you start updating all of this stuff here, that doesn't really help you from a search engine optimization standpoint. but you could just export everything and just have it as like, all right, if we ever need to, update anything, we could upload stuff and go from that route, but and like keep a local copy of it, but that doesn't help you from a search engine optimization standpoint. I think keeping the archive online and just sort of coming up with a strategy to manage that, um, I would rather things stay online because again, I think as your site matures, it really benefits you to keep all of that content that Google has crawled there because it's in Google's brain. There probably are. I mean, we sort of serve at the mercy of what we can do within WiscWeb. So that is something that's probably smarter than I am. Um, but again, if that's something that you really needed to do, I would say let's chat further because maybe our devs might have some strategies there as well that I wouldn't know off the top of my head. So, gosh, let's see. Anything else that I was thinking about throwing at you guys today? The archiving and sort of like the swapping of pages and things like that. That was one. Exporting tools, you can export your site. Um, Actually, something that I've been doing. We ran into some issues with some events calendar stuff, so I've actually been exporting. Um, uh, the EP site doesn't have the events, but you can like export events out as well. So I've been exporting out of production and importing events into QA because I was trying to do some troubleshooting for some stuff. So the export feature is really nice, but you have to have somewhere to put it when you need to put it somewhere. Um, Gosh, what else? I don't know. Any other questions? Anything else that is in your guys' mind? I got 8 minutes. I could talk a lot in 8 minutes. Um, any ideas on archiving other than pages? I mean, the same process is true for anything. So, if you have um oh, let's see. Let me go to my training site. I don't know if I mean, honestly, I think what I could do is let's go to faculty staff members. Um, I could always go in and um, I could always set someone, it's like their status. I could always set somebody back to draft and they exist as a draft then. And then I could just retitle it as well, retitle them as well. So if it's a person file, um, yeah, like you don't have to do that. You could just set them back as draft or like remove like give them a like I mean let me think. Uh, there are a couple of ways that I would do this. So I would either put them back as draft or if you're using faculty types, I would create like a this isn't what I mean this isn't ideal, but I could use gone and then set their visibility as private. And so basically no one can see them unless you're logged in. But I would rather just probably set it back to draft, and that way they're okay with that. So that way they still technically exist. It's just that they're not a published state. Okay, so let's see here. Let me go back up. If you export the entire site with this, can it be navigated on the local computer? Yeah, so basically what you could do is, and what we've done, what our devs have done, I should say, um, uh, you could install a local instance of WordPress on your computer. There are lots of ways out there to do that. You could install the UW theme locally, so that way, whenever you did an import, it wouldn't break because you're still going to be using the UW theme, and then you could import that um, into your local install. There might be a few steps to it other than that because I don't know how a local install of WordPress works um, in relation to like the various things that we use within WiscWeb and within like AWS and all that jazz. But in theory, yes, that is what should work. Install local version of WordPress, export your site, install UW theme, import your. You'd have to add the X. There's a plugin um, that you would have to make sure you get um, to use for that import. But while that's loading, okay, archiving news stories on a page. So I guess I would have to say, um, what do you mean by archiving stories on a page? One site that I would recommend if you're interested in looking at a way of archiving quote unquote posts. Um, this is a site that I helped build several years ago, but this is a site where um, they do an annual visiting scholar as well as an annual social cinema. Obviously, things have been on hold with that, but these are all posts right here. These are all quote unquote news articles, and what we did was initially what we did for the setup was we created a lot of um, post categories, and we then use those post categories. Let me log in so I can show you how this is set up here. We use those post categories to create an archive page. So if I bounce out to, again, the Visiting Scholars Program, here is the current version of it. These are, again, this is just a post list right here based on a particular category. And then what we did was we created a page that was just that old page. And on that old page, we just did a post list to that particular category. So you see right here, there's that category right there. And so now this page is an archive of those old posts that are set to that particular category. So similar idea to like creating the archive. It's just with posts you have a little more power because you can actually create a category to assign things to keep them together much easier. Pages don't have that ability. Pages don't have the category function, which is why I sort of did the whole parent-child relationship. So that way, from a visual and brain standpoint, it makes it easier to keep them together. Yeah. So yeah, instead we're using uh, a posts, yeah, a category in posts. Let's see. Dugga, dugga, dugga. If you export the entire site, does it just take a snapshot of the way the page is today? Doesn't make any changes to the site. No. When you make that export, um, it is point in time. So you're downloading. If I were to export, let me show what plugin that is for those of you who are interested in doing this. It's this one right here, WordPress importer, and it's available at WordPress.org. It is a plugin that WordPress makes available, but that's what we use for importing and exporting things. Um, you export and you export everything. So again, all content, which means pages, posts, um, events, media. You can export everything, and then you import all of that into your site. There's another step in there where there's like a little checkbox that says download and install attachments, you need to make sure there's another strategy for this that Scott Berg, our developer, was talking me through, and David Nios, who was talking me through. I don't understand it completely, but there's a checkbox that you can click on that allows you to install the media, because the media doesn't automatically come in when you do this. There's an extra checkbox that you have to click during that process. Um, but yeah, it is point in time, and it has no impact on um, your current site. You're just pulling that data. That's it. Pulling that information. That's it. If I want to retire a page but still have it as a reference for myself, not publicly, is it best to return a draft or to mark as private? Um, Honestly, Kathy, either works. Draft is probably the most ideal because that way it is not live. It is not published at all. Private is still technically published, although it's published only visible to people who are admins or editors of your site. Draft is truly unpublished. So to that extent, like the link might still exist out there for like a private page. People might click on it and they'll get a little message that says, this page can't be found, or you must be logged in to view this page or something of that nature. Whereas draft, it's like the page is gone. So the next time Google crawls your site, you know, it's gone. Oh, I should say that too. Let me just bounce over to that real quick. I get this question a lot because people, you all make edits to your site, you all make changes to your site. So there are a couple of strategies when it comes to Google. I know we're over time, so if you got to bounce, you got to bounce. I'll wrap things up here in a hot second. Um, when you make changes to your site and you're like, oh, I really want Google to take a look at this. There are a couple of ways to do this. One is you could request Google to recrawl your site. So if you go out to our knowledge base and just do a search for crawl, it is one of the pages that comes up. Um, you can go through that process and do that. The only thing to be aware of here is this, like, you literally have to understand that it says request. Google does what it wants to do. So you can ask Google to recrawl your site. Who knows when it's going to happen? But you can. The other thing that you can do is you can activate the plugin. There you are. Come on. Plugins page always takes so much. There's a plugin called Google XML Sitemaps, and you can actually turn that on within your own site. You guys have access to turn that plugin on yourselves. Um, and so you could turn that on, and what it does is it every so often it will ping the various search engines to crawl a site to make it aware of changes that have been made. So that's definitely something that you could take a look at as well. So, all right, we're over time. Sorry I went over, but again, good conversation. I love the interactions and I love answering questions for you guys. So, as always, you all should have my email. So if you have any questions, drop me a line through email, throw me a chat through Teams. People get in touch with me that way. People get in touch with me through email. Don't try to call me because I don't have a phone. I'm at home. So email and Teams is the best way to get in touch with me. But if you have questions or if you want to see how I do things, please get in touch with me. I'm more than happy to set up some time with you guys to do these one offs. So um, we'll end it there. Thank you guys. Have a great weekend. At least for now, it looks like the rain is gone. So um, we'll hopefully get some greener grass now. So take care, everybody.